Teen's cliff jump goes horrifically wrong after striking rock before plunging into ocean at San Diego's Sunset Cliffs. A 17-year-old boy suffered serious injuries after a dangerous cliff jump at California's famous Sunset Cliffs went tragically wrong. The incident, which occurred on Sunday afternoon in San Diego, was captured on video and has once again raised concerns about the dangers of cliff jumping at one of Southern California's most popular coastal destinations. Now let's go beyond the surface and reveal every layer of this story on our AI
You're
podcast.
scrolling through social media on a summer afternoon, right?
Oh, yeah. Like everyone does.
Right. And your feed is inevitably just flooded with these pristine cinematic clips. Someone stands on a rugged cliff. They take a breathless leap. The camera follows them in slow motion.
Yeah, and you get that deeply satisfying splash into perfect crystal blue water.
Exactly. It's packaged to look like the ultimate carefree summer thrill. I mean, it just looks so easy.
It looks like total freedom. There are no guardrails, no rules, just gravity and a beautiful ocean. The aesthetic of it is incredibly powerful.
It really is. But that aesthetic completely shatters when you look at what actually happened this past Sunday at San Diego's famous Sunset Cliffs.
Yeah, that incident really strips away the filter.
It does. It leaves you with something genuinely terrifying. We've been going through a massive stack of local news reports, safety statistics, and municipal data for this deep dive.
And honestly, the story of this 17-year-old cliff jumper isn't just a basic cautionary tale.
No, not at all. It is a masterclass in how our eyes completely deceive us, the brutal physics of a fall, and, well, the incredible, almost incomprehensible engineering required to pull someone back from the edge of a cliff.
Right. Because Sunday afternoon at Sunset Cliffs is usually, idyllic. It's world-renowned for its dramatic ocean views, drawing huge crowds of tourists and locals.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because you see these beautiful cinematic ocean drops online, but what's actually lurking just out of frame?
Well, on this particular afternoon, this 17-year-old boy climbed to the very top of one of these cliffs.
And he wasn't alone up there, right?
Right.
There was a large crowd watching. You can imagine the energy, the anticipation, people pulling out their phones to record what they think is going to be just another viral moment.
Exactly. So he takes the leap into the Pacific Ocean below. But the video footage that captured this reveals a horrifying miscalculation.
A completely fatal error in judgment.
Yeah. During his descent, long before he even reaches the water, he strikes the side of the rocky cliff face.
I mean, that is just, wow. The impact must have been unimaginable.
The impact was severe. You have a human body in free fall, accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared due to gravity, suddenly slamming into an immovable, jagged rock wall.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the onlookers watched in absolute shock as his trajectory changed. He continued to fall, and then he completely disappeared into the turbulent water below.
Okay, I have to stop you there because watching these videos, I always wonder how someone actually misses the ocean.
Right, like how does that even happen?
Exactly. The water is right there. It sounds like aiming for a swimming pool from a rooftop, but forgetting your scaffolding right in your drop zone. He completely misjudged the clearance.
He really did.
So is this just sheer clumsiness? Or is there a physical mechanism at play that makes jumping past a rock face so difficult? How quickly does an adrenaline rush turn into a full-blown crisis?
It's almost instant. And it's a massive physical and optical illusion. People tend to think of cliffs as perfectly vertical drops, right? Like the side of a skyscraper.
Sure, like a straight line down.
But coastal cliffs, especially sandstone formations like those in San Diego, they erode unevenly. The water at the bottom carves out the base, but the middle of the cliff often shelves outward.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and when you stand at the top and look down, you cannot see that middle shelf protruding because of your viewing angle.
So you think you have a straight drop, but you are actually jumping over a hidden staircase of rock.
Precisely. And adding to that, humans are notoriously bad at generating outward horizontal momentum from a standstill on uneven terrain.
That makes sense. You can't really sprint on a jagged rock.
Right. To clear a protruding rock face that might be, 20 feet below you, you don't just need to fall. You need a significant forward running start to create a parabolic arc.
But you are launching off slippery, crumbling sandstone.
Exactly. So jumpers often hesitate, they don't get enough outward push, and gravity just pulls them down into the protruding rock before they ever clear the cliff face.
Man, that makes the reality of the footage so much more chilling. The collective gasp of that crowd must have been deafening.
It was pure chaos.
When he goes under the water, the situation immediately fractures. On the shore, people are scrambling, they're dialing 911. But then, Out of nowhere, another individual, just a bystander in the crowd, instantly jumps into the ocean to help him.
A truly incredible act of bravery.
Unbelievable, really.
And while that bystander is in the water trying to locate and stabilize the teenager, the official response is being mobilized. The authorities have kept the 17-year-old's identity private, obviously.
Yeah.
And they haven't released the full extent of his trauma, but they did confirm one somewhat miraculous fact. When he was eventually pulled from the water, he was conscious and breathing.
Which is astounding. But surviving that initial blunt force impact with the cliff face and the subsequent drop into the ocean, I mean, that is only step one of this ordeal.
Step one of a very long process.
Right, because getting him out of the water became this massive logistical nightmare. The San Diego Fire Rescue Department gets the emergency call at exactly 4:27 p.m.
Yes, 4:27.
But the timeline shows he isn't actually transported to the hospital until 5:1 p.m.
Because the steep cliffs and the difficult terrain required a full technical rescue operation. Arriving on the scene does not mean you can just reach down and pull someone out of the ocean.
Wait, I need to push back on this 49-minute timeline. Because you hear nearly an hour for an emergency rescue, and your instinct is to think that is an agonizingly long time to wait.
It sounds like a long time, definitely.
Especially when someone has severe trauma and is floating in the ocean. Given a vertical rock face and an ocean current, is it actually a logistical miracle they got him out that fast? If they're the specialized, highly trained rescue team, why does tying a rope and pulling someone up take 49 minutes?
It is actually a logistical marvel that they completed it in 49 minutes.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is the sheer mechanical complexity of a technical rescue rig. We are not talking about tossing down a simple rope and pulling hand over hand.
Right, because you can't just hoist dead weight up a jagged rock face.
You cannot. First, consider the load. You have a fully geared up rescue swimmer. You have the injured victim, a heavy Stokes basket or backboard to immobilize the spine.
Oh, because of the fall trauma.
Exactly. Spinal precautions are critical. Plus, you have the weight of all that water-soaked gear. You are easily looking at 400 to 500 pounds of dead weight.
Wow, 500 pounds hanging off a cliff.
Yeah. And human beings cannot safely pull that up a vertical cliff without a mechanical advantage system. First responders have to build what is essentially a temporary elevator system using ropes and pulleys.
Like a construction crane made of rope.
Pretty much. They use what's called a 3-to-1 or 5-to-1 Z-rig system.
Okay, what does a 5-to-1 system actually do?
So it uses multiple pulleys to divide the weight. A 5-to-1 system means that for every 100 pounds of weight, the pullers at the top only feel 20 pounds of resistance.
Oh, that's incredibly smart.
It is, but the trade-off is distance.
What do you mean?
Well, to lift the victim 1 foot, the team at the top has to pull 5 feet of rope. It takes an incredible amount of coordination and physical space on the cliff top.
And I imagine you have to anchor all of this machinery to something solid. Which brings us back to the sandstone.
Yeah, that is the most time-consuming part. Sunset Cliffs is made of crumbling, eroding rock. You cannot just hammer a piton into the dirt.
That would just pop right out.
Exactly. So first responders often have to build these bomb-proof anchors. That might mean chaining multiple anchor points far back from the cliff edge, or even tying the primary lines to the chassis of a multi-ton fire engine parked on the street.
Wait, they tie the ropes to the fire truck?
Yes, and all of this has to be perfectly calculated, double-checked for safety, and executed while a victim with suspected spinal injuries is being battered by ocean waves at the base of the cliff. Every single movement has to be deliberate.
Man. So when you break down the physics of hoisting 500 pounds using a temporary pulley system anchored to a fire truck on a crumbling cliff, 49 minutes is basically warp speed.
It really is. It is a testament to relentless drilling and training by the San Diego Fire Rescue Department. They deal with these incidents frequently, especially during the summer, but the terrain dictates the speed of the rescue. You simply cannot rush physics.
Yeah, you really can't. But if hauling someone up takes an hour of intense mechanical engineering, it forces you to wonder why people are jumping in the first place.
Right, the motivation behind the risk.
Because when I look at photos of Sunset Cliffs, I see beautiful, deep blue water that looks like a perfect natural diving board. Why is this specific location such a trap?
Because experts warn that the deep blue water is a deadly illusion. We are accustomed to controlled environments. When you look at a swimming pool, the bottom is static. The depth is literally painted on the side of the pool.
Right. You know exactly what you're jumping into.
Exactly. The ocean is entirely dynamic, and at Sunset Cliffs, you are dealing with a multitude of hidden hazards that completely scramble human perception.
I really want to dig into that perception failure. Because someone standing 50 feet up thinks they can accurately judge the depth of the water, but they can't. Why does our vision fail us so badly over the ocean?
It comes down to light refraction and a lack of visual reference points. From 50 feet in the air, you are looking down at a moving, reflective surface.
Like a mirror.
Yeah, the water acts like a distorted mirror reflecting the sky, which masks what is underneath. There is a phenomenon where the refraction of light through the water makes submerged objects like jagged rock shelves appear significantly deeper than they actually are.
Okay, so your eyes are basically lying to you.
Completely. Your brain processes the visual data and tells you, oh, that rock is 10 feet underwater, when in reality it is only 2 feet below the surface.
And the tide is constantly changing that math anyway. It's like playing roulette with the ocean. You might look down and see deep, safe water at 1 p.m., but by 3 p.m., the tide has completely rearranged the game board, right?
Dramatically. A 3-foot tidal shift doesn't just mean the water is slightly shallower. Tides pull sand and sediment out to sea, exposing entirely new, razor-sharp rock formations that were buried just hours before.
That is terrifying.
A jump that was perfectly safe at 1 p.m. during high tide can become a fatal plunge into shallow, exposed rocks at 4 p.m. The ocean is essentially rearranging the furniture while you are in the air.
Just changing the entire landscape on a whim. And add in the powerful waves that push jumpers into those rocks the second they land, and the strong rip currents that can pull an injured person out to sea. It's just a chaotic environment.
It's incredibly chaotic. Even highly experienced cliff jumpers, people who do this professionally, who understand the physics of trajectory and water entry, they miscalculate their landings here, resulting in catastrophic injuries.
No experience doesn't even save you.
Not always. No 2 jumps at Sunset Cliffs are ever exactly the same because the environment is in a constant, violent state of flux.
Knowing how unpredictable the environment is and how demanding the rescues are, the authorities haven't just issued casual warnings. They have completely outlawed the activity.
Oh, yeah. It is strictly prohibited.
Cliff jumping is illegal under San Diego's municipal code. The law specifically bans anyone from jumping or diving into the Pacific Ocean or Mission Bay from any natural or man-made structure that is more than 5 feet above the water surface.
5 feet is the strict legal threshold. Anything higher is a direct violation of the municipal code.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. And here's what I am struggling to understand. Candace Hadley, the spokesperson for the San Diego Fire Rescue Department, came out after this accident and explicitly reminded everyone of the danger.
She was very clear about it.
Quote, "It's not only extremely dangerous, but also against the law in San Diego. And warning signs are prominently posted all throughout Sunset Cliffs."
You literally can't miss them.
Right. And the historical data is grim. According to the local publication OB-RAG, between 2005 and 2017, Sunset Cliffs saw 19 fatalities and 49 serious injuries.
Yeah. The statistics are just brutal.
19 people died on this specific stretch of coastline. So if there are signs everywhere, a strict 5-foot legal limit, and a literal body count, why is there such a massive disconnect? Are perfectly rational people just ignoring 19 fatalities because of the rugged beauty of the area? Is it just teenage invincibility?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it affects adults just as much as teenagers. It is a fascinating clash between human psychology and unforgiving data.
How so?
Well, the phenomenon at play here is a combination of the availability heuristic and optimism bias. When people arrive at Sunset Cliffs, they are overwhelmed by the scenic beauty.
It is gorgeous, I'll give them that.
From a neurobiological standpoint, looking at a beautiful sunlit ocean view triggers dopamine and suppresses the amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for fear and threat detection.
Wait, really? The beauty literally numbs our risk assessment.
Exactly that. Furthermore, they see social media videos of successful jumps, or they see a crowd of people cheering someone on. This creates social proof.
Right, the idea that if everyone else is doing it, it must be safe.
Yes. The brain decides that if everyone else is relaxed and celebrating, the danger must be exaggerated. They succumb to optimism bias, the deeply ingrained belief that bad things happen to other people, not to them.
It won't happen to me.
Precisely.
Right.
They filter out the warning signs in the history of 19 fatalities because their immediate sensory input is telling them a completely different story of fun and adrenaline.
But their adrenaline rush has massive consequences for everyone else.
Yeah.
When they ignore those signs, they aren't just gambling with their own spine.
No, they are risking the lives of the emergency responders. Putting a rescue swimmer in a churning surge channel next to sharp rocks is incredibly dangerous.
Is putting an innocent person in harm's way for a stunt.
Absolutely. Beyond that, they are tying up a multi-person technical rescue team and specialized apparatus for over an hour. That means those highly trained personnel and those fire engines are completely unavailable for other emergencies in the city.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Like a house fire across town.
Or a car crash, or a heart attack. The ripple effects of that single thrill-seeking decision are massive.
Which is why emergency officials are pleading with people to just use the designated viewing areas.
Yeah.
They want people to enjoy the scenic overlook without turning it into an extreme sports venue.
Right, and knowledge and context are the best tools we have to change this behavior. Understanding the mechanics of the ocean, the reality of the rescue, and the psychology of why we misjudge risk, that strips away the illusion of safety that social media creates.
It grounds you in reality.
It really does. It replaces a false sense of invincibility with a healthy scientific respect for the sheer power of the environment.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now? It means the next time you visit a scenic coastal destination, your perspective is going to be completely transformed.
You'll never look at a cliff the same way again.
Exactly. You are going to look past the cinematic view and see the invisible forces at play. You will see the changing tides, you'll understand how the light is hiding the rocks beneath the surface, and you will recognize the sheer logistical nightmare it would take to pull someone up those cliffs.
You'll see the full picture.
You understand the legal boundaries, and more importantly, you know that those warning signs aren't there to ruin your fun. They are written in the context of past tragedies. A single miscalculation in a dynamic, unforgiving environment can alter the rest of your life.
It is about respecting the reality of the space, not just consuming the aesthetic of it.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to really explore on your own.
I love this part.
Think back to the very first moments of this incident. You have a 17-year-old boy who has just brutally struck a rock face and disappeared into the churning ocean. You have a large crowd standing safely on the cliffs. Many of them are doing what we all do in the modern era, watching the disaster unfold through the screen of their phone, filming a stunt gone terribly wrong.
A crowd of spectators.
Right. But in that exact chaotic moment, one person, a complete bystander, makes a different calculation. They immediately jump into the water to help him.
Just incredible instinct.
In an age where the default reaction is so often the bystander effect, where we freeze or film while others act, what drives that split-second primal instinct? What is it inside human nature that compels one individual to instantly risk their own life in those exact same treacherous waters, while everyone else remains safely on the shore?
Okay, one question for you. Do you think thrill-seeking activities like cliff jumping should be completely banned at dangerous locations, such as sunset cliffs, or should people be allowed to take the risk if they understand the consequences? Why? Thanks.